Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Smudcast number 867. When are critics wrong? Well, they're wrong all the time. It happens. We're only human. And this is a video from Channel Awesome, or Doug Walker, from 9 years ago. Has almost 2 million views. And I guess it's relevant today because, well, that's just how criticism works. Doesn't matter who is criticizing the critics. It's always good to know why and how that works. So, has a very healthy ratio. Mostly like 90, I'd say 99%, 48K to 1.2K downvotes. That's pretty good.
It was 9 years ago. Jeez.
Yeah. I don't know what he's been doing. I don't actively watch Doug. I'm assuming he still does some reviews.
Oh, he does. It's far more than just he's doing reviews, more modern reviews.
Huh.
Like more, like what did he do? He did recently. I was literally talking about it last night when I saw him post it. Yeah, he does like more recent stuff like Yogi Bear and like the live action one.
Live action. Okay, interesting. Fun stuff.
Yeah, off the top of my head. It's like a lot more condensed. It's not as No, not too many skits, so it's better style.
Good.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Let his creativity be elsewhere. That's fine by me.
He still does his just normal. It's called like the review name show or something.
Does he do it with his brother, where they sit back and they argue?
Oh, that's sibling rivalry. I don't think he's done that in a while.
Oh, okay.
But he still does just Doug reviews where it's just him sitting down, and it's very just like a plain, mostly unscripted, talking to the camera about the movie. Like he just did one today for the Lilo and Stitch remake, so he still does that plenty of times.
Okay, well, good for him. I'm glad he's still around, kicking and enjoying media. I hope, whatever little there is. Okay, 12 minutes and a half almost. We should be good to go. We're getting some more people coming in. I see Whisp is here. Hey, Whisp. So
hello.
We'll just go along as they come in, and we'll just clue them in on what happened. All right.
Hello.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy. Remember it so you don't have to. As most of you know, when you become a critic, you drink this magic juice that immediately makes you smarter than everyone else.
Yep.
Once this liquid is consumed, you suddenly become a member of the Critic League, meaning your opinion matters 90% more than that of the common riffraff. Your senses are heightened, your brain becomes bigger, and you miraculously know what's best for everyone in the world. This
Completely
is the promise
true.
of the Tree of Life.
We celebrate.
No, not that thing.
Alright, as many of you probably figured out, that's not how things work. Odd for me to
He
say,
says this
I
for
know, but the
obfuscation, of
idea of
course.
critics is kind of a strange one.
Jeez, Batman v
It's so often that
Superman
we
got
compare our thoughts to the
28%.
critics, and probably more than once you've disagreed with them. You either liked something they hated or hated something they liked. This usually forces people to fall into one of two categories. Someone that says, screw the critics, they don't speak for the people and are a bunch of stuck-up eggheads. Or the people that say, screw the masses, they wouldn't know art if the Mona Lisa kicked them in the balls. But what you might be surprised at is films that are considered classics today were not always seen as such by critics when they first came out. Did you know that Psycho, The Shining, and Fight Club all got negative reviews when they first premiered? These are movies people watch all the time. They're practically considered masterworks, yet very few critics liked them when they came to theaters.
Yep.
With that said, did you also know that Signs, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Phantom Menace all got positive reviews when they first came out? Good lord, how can you trust anyone with these kinds of mindsets? Part of what people forget, though, is that...
I would add, if, like the big one for me is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Okay.
Like, that got savaged when it came out. Like, it got so... If the trivia I remember researching is right, it was so lambasted that John Carpenter almost quit filmmaking. Like, because he was so crushed that like actors he really admired hated it, and it was like both a critically and box office disappointment. And like obviously now it's held up as like a gold standard for horror remakes.
Well, there's always.
Do you remember what they complained about?
A lot of people were like, "This is a gore fest. It's schlock."
Yeah, as well. but good.
Yeah, especially the actors who were like, there were some people from that were in the original, The Thing from Another World, that saw it and were like, this is just a schlocky, gory remake of what I was in.
This is probably just a series of either biases, like confirmation biases, or things involving preconceptions where you think, okay, this is going to be a horror. I have to think in terms of horror, and what was horror at the time? I'm guessing Halloween or other similar things. And what does Halloween do for me? And then I compare it to like something like The Thing or Chucky's or something like that. It's always that, oh, it's a B movie style horror thing, and this was obviously a little different. Was it science fiction-ish?
Like science fiction paranoia film.
Science fiction Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And, but while it had amazing effects, had an absolutely terrifying threat, it was suspense horror more than it was. Well, the gore is obvious. I think the suspense worked much better than in any other horror movie.
Yeah, like also I was like, so people don't. It's actually like far closer to the book. The remake is, because I really didn't know that the book is actually. I assumed the book was like a Frankensteinish book because of the original. No, the book is actually describes, and it's a book from like the 1920s that actually describes the Thing as this molecular, like shape-shifting monster like that, and they just didn't have the special effects to do it in the original.
They did a pretty good job from what they accomplished in that film. Did it make complete sense? No, because this thing could just like leap out of the body and become something else, then hide like in like microscopically in another body. You're like, oh, that's kind of impossible. So
it's kind of, I never understood. What I never understood was like how they describe it was like, if one thing of it gets on you, do you then just turn into the whole? Because then that's what I never understood. That raised a bunch of questions for me.
No, it's part of the magic of the science, that you don't know the exact rules, and that's kind of why it works there.
Very similar to the Evil Dead films, I'd say. That it's just this cabin in the woods, some magical book. You don't understand how it works. It slowly creeps up on you, starts hurting and killing your friends. Nothing really makes sense until it finally comes to life, and then you can kill it. You're like, okay, this is getting a little over the top.
Yeah, like why don't all the Deadites just possess everybody at the same time? I don't. That's what I. Like.
There's a lot of holes.
Because that's the part where there's not all rules are exactly known, and as long as what happens doesn't contradict what happened established, it's kind of okay, I think.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, but Doug here, he's so far on point, and he's actually. So what's going on is truly yes, there is a secret club of critics in the world, and you're not to know about it. And so Doug, of course, has to, while he's calling for help, this is a call for help, he's calling for help to the profession. And but since it's a secret club, he also needs to obfuscate about the whole thing again about, the men in black actually aren't real. So he's walking an edge here. And yes, there have always been frauds in criticdom, and there have always been shit. They've always written the opposite of what is true, just like they do everywhere else now. They're in games journalism and in food criticism, in absolutely everything. And we haven't figured out how to get rid of them. That's the whole thing.
Well, Doug's a huge fan of Siskel and Ebert, and
they've been wrong on things too, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's why like they got really popular too, and why he likes them so much is that they're very, they're very ready to be like, I like this. I don't care if other people didn't like it, and they're like they usually were pretty honest critics.
Yeah.
Well,
like yeah,
there is a big difference between the critics of the 80s and 90s and those films and those TV shows, and the 2000s and 2010s, especially when we see all those rags that we've witnessed over gaming and movies, whether it's feminism or identity politics or whatever, there's always some group bias or group attribution errors, or you get the worst takes from these people because they have so many filters in their brains. Say, oh, this does not have enough women doing the female thing, or this does not have enough men doing the non-male thing, or whatever. You're like, okay, we sort of have to filter through that ourselves before we say, okay, who's actually saying the sane stuff that we can get behind. So when you gave the example of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, I think most of us who like Star Wars or who like science fiction go, yes, something's really bad with this thing. Now, the fans of Star Wars go, well, it's Star Wars. It has the laser guns and it has the sabers. And you're like, oh, to them, they get what they need. And the rest...
That's the simple fans. They're pleased with the dangling keys.
Yeah, and then you have to evaluate what is the critic. Are they coming from that perspective? This is just another Star Wars film that everyone's been waiting for and all the hype is real and all the expectations are there? Or is it like, oh, this is a movie and it's trash?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's three types off the cuff. There's at least three types of fans. There's the dangling key fan who just wants to see the TIE Fighter, X-Wing, laser sword, and just wants the official stamp on it. That's the person who will watch The Acolyte and tell you it's actually really good because it tries to subvert the Jedi, because that's not been done before, and then just goes with the propaganda and really doesn't even understand its propaganda. It's just it's the official stamp. It's really good. You need to watch it. And no. You don't understand that this is actually a destruction of the thing you like, and you won't get any more of it because it's a destruction of the thing you like. And there's the people who can think well enough. They can see what's going on. They just know what they like and what they don't, and will see the thing isn't actually the thing. It's something else. And I'm not meaning the carpenter thing, although that's a good allegory. And the other end of it is everything is super bad. The prequels are irrecoverably bad. Lucas has fucked up. Red Letter Media was right on everything, while even Red Letter Media says, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have said that J.J. Abrams should have gotten it because he got it, and we see what that turned into. Oh my god, we lived in the golden age, and we...
Oh my god, we didn't know what we had.
Yeah, well, it's we've gone over these examples a couple times, but they're just the first things that come to my mind. Whether it's movies or video games or probably anything else, we did live in the golden age where we could be so picky that we at first dismiss Planescape Torment because it's ugly and it handles horribly, and Vampire Bloodlines because it's super buggy and unplayable and kind of wonky, and a couple of years we look back and all these hidden gems, look, now our media is really shit. Oh my god, everything was amazing back then. The prequels were flawed. Lucas meant well. We don't shit on him anymore for not having made it well. We now the pity turns into compassion for man. If only competent people had been at his side, and the things would have been amazing. It kind of it matures into that. Now that the bar is so low that we see, well, it wasn't at the pinnacle, but it was like a few steps below.
Yeah, that would be your standard attribution bias. So you have these expectations, which, because you say the golden age or the 80s and the 90s were really great for media, and you say, well, this is what we expect. And then you realize, well, not everyone can make gold every time. And there's reasons for that. And there's all kinds of explanations about getting all these perfect people aligned right, making all the right moves at the right time with the right price. So that is a bias for sure. But even without the bias, even when we see the opposite of that with the prequels, the sequels, we go, oh, yeah, this we know is bad. And yeah, we could be a little nicer to the things that we thought were shit, but they're still shit. Like, we can't just say they're suddenly amazing. So
it's just not as extreme anymore
Right.
in comparison. But back then, when all we knew was perfection, and then there's these compared to perfection, these were massive blunders. And now that we see what absolute shite that burns billions of dollars on screen is being made, oh, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was just bad in comparison to perfection. Basically.
I was just say, you brought up the types of Star Wars fans and Red Media. I just remember that clip they did mocking Collider, where Collider reviewers were like upset they didn't get like Disney passes or something, and one of the guys actually says, "I busted my ass being a Disney fan for all this time."
Then you're not a fan. You're just a subversive piece of shit that sells out. That is an actual grifter, by the way. That is the actual definition of the word grifter. Somebody who holds an opinion he doesn't actually have for personal gain. And that doesn't need to be monetary. It usually is monetary. It's the easiest thing of profiting on something. But this is why officials, officers, anything, people who work for the state are not allowed to take any gifts for thanks, including even a flower or something, or a mint. But with the problems of the critics and how we can spot them, it's just gotten more obvious and worse en masse with the ideological stuff of the past decade or two, because they're very easily to spot. We all know their pattern, their filter by which they judge, which is not on the quality of the movie, but on the checklist of the ideology. How congruent is it with the ideology? And before that, it was more how avant-garde is it? It was still about, is it breaking new grounds? But the checklist for that was more vague.
Well, I think,
and more the internal fashion expectations of the art and of the academia, when they were all just stuck up their own asses.
well, this is
just
kind
as
of
they are now.
This is kind of the issue I have with Siskel and Ebert, is that you first have to have a critical eye, you have to have knowledge, and you have to have a standard before you start discussing what you see with someone else, because a lot of people don't have that. And once they start talking to their friends or whomever, they go, oh, I never thought of it that way. That makes me think. And now they're thinking about the thing they just previously saw, as opposed to going into a show or a book and going, okay, this is the genre. This is what I know. This is what I expect. These are my standards from all these books or movies I've seen before. That's what I want to get into. And if we don't get that, then we start taking points off. It's like listening to any recital for classical music. Like you hit one piece of Beethoven or Mozart, a minuet by Bach, whatever, goes by for a minute and two. You're like, oh, that was a cute thing. I remember playing that 20 years ago because I've heard it 20,000 times. This was too fast. This was too loud. This was in the wrong key or whatever. So these are standards that any art critic would naturally have. And you mentioned the idea of quality, the quality of the film. That comes about by analyzing these elements and differentiating between what is subjective and what is objective about the thing you're watching or observing. So to do that requires a study of aesthetics, and you need to know the terms, you need to know the language of whether it's cinematography or art or visual art, whatever it is. You have to know the fundamental principles of the thing before you can have this idea of a quality work and what makes something of a higher quality than something of a lower production, because you could have fantastic value of quality of something of lower production or lower production values. So yeah,
that is learning the objective measure of the thing.
Yeah, but many critics do not even believe in objective criteria.
That's exactly, and that's the ideologues, because they're incompetent narcissists who can use subjectivism as an excuse to not have to be competent at anything.
It's a strange philosophy to get in
Sophism.
get in the way of. Yeah, I guess so. It's a little bit of a solipsistic way of thinking because, like, everyone's different. Everyone has their own perspective. It's like, yeah, but if you put it on a bell curve,
smart.
they all line up.
Yes, man, and it's absolutely baffling because that what you just described. I don't say sophism out of jest or just to snipe at them, but you look throughout time, you read the old Greeks. This is the kind of people they've been complaining about and describing as the sophists. This is the problem. They are the antagonist to philosophy that role plays as philosophy. Because of course everybody wants to be the real thing without putting any effort into being the real thing. Because then you can just grandstand and claim, hey, yeah, give me praise, give me money.
Which is funny since aesthetics is it's not a hard. There's very few examples I can think of that people who were philosophers that dedicated their time just to aesthetics. And it's only in recent years that I could point, like Hume is a very brief one. You could say Aristotle, but that was, again, very, very small. And Nordstrop Frye from the 1980s. I mean, it's so brief, these actual critics or philosophers.
Plato's nuts. Plato was in contrast to aesthetics, right?
He did have some. These were all dialogues, and the problem with that is it's all in conversation. It's not like here's a critical, reflective look. It's like here is my ideal philosopher who may or may not be real, who's arguing with other philosophers, and they just let him run. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, theory of forms. That yeah, okay, that sounds about right. Even though it's all up in his mind. So with Aristotle, it's like, no. Here's how poetics work. These are the examples we have of our time, and this is why they don't work, and why we have Homer and why he's the basis of everything. So you need that repertoire, or else it's just it's all theoretical, and this is all what people do not know and what they haven't experienced, and therefore they're a empty vessel I can fill in with anything, and they're all programmable, and you're like, oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. So anyway, yeah, we're not going to get into that. We're going to keep watching Doug Walker.
I was going to say, just last thing, I think you can judge some critics as who will try to be the objective, the going for I'm judging the quality of the film, the directing, the sound, the acting, and then you have some people who can't help but try to judge it critiquing it as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
That perspective, well, as a fan, this movie was a 9 out of 10, but as a critic, this was
oh yeah, it's great because some of the critics will take their knowledge of, let's say, English or cinematography or I don't know, animation, classical, whatever, and they'll evaluate it to death on that one metric. And you're like, wow, you're right. It's such a detailed outlook, and that's all they care about because that's what they focused on, and that's fine. Without saying, well, what about the music? The music could have been amazing, and that could have carried the film or carried the game or whatever. So, and they'll just say, yeah, it was perfect music. No exceptions, no argument. Just this is amazing, even though it could be like Limp Bizkit or some alternative band no one likes anymore.
That's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I know, but that's what the thing with.
People still love Limp Bizkit.
Well, look at that. The thing, the guy with Devil May Cry. The OP had his favorite band,
Evanescence or something, right?
Or whatever it was. You're just like, okay, so you love the show because of the opening music? Okay, well, that's weird.
It was because I watch monster movies and a lot of comic book stuff. Some people are like, well, all they had to do was take that one scene from the comic and put it in there, and then they're like, that's good enough. As a fan, that's good enough for me.
Exactly.
Or the amount of monster movies I've seen where it's like, well, everything sucked, but that monster fight was really cool. So as a fan, that's all I needed.
You described the Ghost in the Shell film, and I think the attempt. Oh yeah, there's 3 or 4 things that have nothing to do with the anime or the movie they just threw in there because it's from the anime or the manga.
All I gotta do is see all you gotta do is you put that one line
Yeah.
from that one comic in, and that's good enough for me. That's
Yeah.
Without rhyme or reason. And oh God, I hate that.
Yeah, I know that if they just had actual breasts in Ghost in the Shell, my mind would have been, you know what? At least they're getting accurate to the movie or the original movie.
Bold enough to the truth.
Just give me the anime, only better. It's all just, it's live action. There's so much more detail. I don't care if Scarlett Johansson needs a body double. I don't care. Just
What? Why would she need a body double at that time?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Because she was too big?
Uh,
That can't be the reason.
if she wasn't a robotically perfect female, I don't care. Whatever the problem would have been, just give me the goriest, most adult Ghost in the Shell experience. And even if it was schlocky, even if it was like ham-fisted, I'll be like, at least they're getting to the thing it came from, and they're just ripping it all out and putting it back in. I'd be like, that's fine. That's what I'm here for.
you see
Oh
that
my
with
God,
comic
can you
books.
imagine what Japan would do with the budgets of Hollywood?
Oh, they've tried. I've seen some really bad live action. So
Yeah, but
wish
look, that's
Japan could have
but that doesn't sound like it's the budget of Hollywood.
yeah, their idea of doing live action is always confusing to me, from anime at least. So I don't know.
Oh, I mean, now that you mentioned that, like the adaptation argument, like I think a lot of people don't like the those Death Note live action Japanese
Oh.
because they don't follow the manga a lot.
Oh, there's
But-
Yeah, but that's the American problem.
no, there's like Attack on Titan. There's Rurouni Kenshin. There's so many that's just so silly, and they didn't have to do that. They did not have to get the bright blue hair and the silly slow-mo crap and the special
Wait,
effects.
which one had the bright blue hair? Attack on Titan?
I don't think I watched 2 seconds of that. I was like, ugh, stop. Rurouni
Attack on
Kenshin
Titan.
had a bunch of crazy hairstyles and colors, so I was like, no. But yeah, enough of
Well,
bad.
it helps keep the people apart.
Yeah, it's true. It's like a bloody flare gun in your eyes. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, let's continue.
Oh, hi, Hall.
Critics, and like anyone, they can be emotionally swayed. Hell, that's what movies are supposed to do, emotionally sway you. But how can audiences and critics differ so much? Well, there's a few things to keep in mind. One is, as a viewer, you can choose which movies you want to see, so if something looks bad, you can easily skip over it. Critics usually can't. They have to sit through a shit ton of movies, including the bad ones, and usually have to see 10 times the amount that normal people see. Seeing so many so often can easily have an effect on how you view them. You notice more cliches, you pick up on where the story is going to go, mostly because you've just seen it done over and over and over.
Let her go! 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 Let her go!
Movies can get away with a lot of repeating though because they want to impress the mass majority, not the critics. So films can use the same tropes several times because it'll take a mass audience longer to catch on to it and get bored by it because
Yeah, but that's not really an argument. That's just saying the person who's eaten cake all his life has tried the same cake over and over, and he's bored of it, but he could still objectively say this is a good chocolate cake or not because he has so much experience.
Yeah, there would be the good critic, the proper critic, while the others do not just fall to the problem of their fatigue and want this. Oh, I want something that breaks new ground. I want something that is different, different, and which is why they lean towards wanting subversions of things because
Sure.
those things are different. However. Those are not good critics because they're not judging the movie by itself. They are just judging it by their own emotional neuron activation, and
Interesting.
Well,
Okay.
that's an issue.
I was going to say
for
if they're
can I
going to
give-
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, my counterexample to that would be anywhere in quality food sales. whether you have a wine shop or cheese or tea, which is my forte. Whiskey would do as well. When you run an actual tea shop, not selling tea bags, you order samples from the actual importers who import tons and tons of stuff from the actual plantations, and you sit through 20 or more teas a week just as the guy who runs a shop. The actual tea masters that go through all the imported ones, or rather they get samples from the plantations from various days where they go through 200 black teas that are all shit and only order a couple of them, and then you as the store owner or who has a market booth, you order from them what they deem is okay, which then again depends on your local's environmental issues, which is like, what is the water in your area? Because that affects how the final product is going to be, which you could liken to, well, your local audience may have a little bit different taste. You may have more people who are into horror movies. If you are cinema, you may have more people who are more into other stuff. You have an arts university, well, they probably want more artsy shit. And like here, it's this town has the second best water in the country, which means it is the perfect place to sell green and white tea, and you get very, very, very arrogant tongues. While all the surrounding places have really shit water, where you can basically only make black teas, which are also better with hard water, but you can't drink anything else. And what it comes down to is that for one, of course, you need to know your audience. What audience are you talking to? The other thing is, when you go through 20 samples of crap every week, and that's just the low end. That's not the tea master who gets like $20,000 a month as basically suffering compensation for going through so much shit. You are gonna get, as I said, very arrogant about what is actually good enough for you. But the other thing is, you also need to know, what does the actual consumer like? Because you can't just sell all the best teas, because then you're just too expensive. People also want the everyday tea. And so you need to know, what does the gunpowder taste like that is decent? Not that it's super amazing, but that is okay. And you need to know what things taste well, as they should, that are not in your preferred taste, that maybe you don't like. Maybe you don't like smoky teas, but you still need to know what a good smoky tea has to taste like. You need that objective metric to sell to the subjective customer.
Well,
that is vital, and that is what makes a good critic. And then, if one last bit, I think this is a good thing about anyone who sells taste, is once in a while you need to buy a tea bag from the supermarket and drink that, just to bring yourself down to the level of, oh, this is where the shit is actually at, so that I get grounded again to know on what lofty heights I actually drink every day as somebody who loves this field, whether it is tea, whether it is movies.
Yeah, that's the critic taking a step back from the painting and saying, okay, wait a second, what am I really looking at here? Why am I in this highfalutin tower where all I see is like Rembrandts and things made of gouache? Why do I have to go this far? And then
somebody shows you Shinshan.
Well, and the idea of the critic who isn't objective, and they're, I don't know, the 10 years they've been having teas or cakes, whatever, that's their specialty. Whether they're aware of it or not, they will know what to expect. And that is a criteria, whether it's conscious or subconscious, I don't care. So this is what we get with game reviews, where the game is really good. They don't know exactly what kind of thing to expect, because every game is slightly different. So you'll get the 8 out of 10s and 9 out of 10s. Everything was excellent, but they wanted that extra unknown. They wanted that pizzazz. They wanted the accentuation on top. They wanted something to surprise them. But they never get it. They don't know what it is. That's where we see the people are doing their job because, of course, an amazing game that's taken years to make is going to be great in most cases. So we're expecting GTA 6 to be amazing when it comes out next year, hopefully. So everyone's going to give it something close to 9, if not perfect scores, even though they don't know how to evaluate that without using objective criteria. Because in the back of their minds, they go, well, I've played GTA. I know what this is. Now, the biased person who's like, well, I want Vice City all over again. That's my favorite GTA. If it's not as good as Vice City, blah, 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 it's going to suck. I'll give it a 6 if it comes out that way, just because it's not Vice City. That's their cognitive bias. That's what they're expecting to come. Then you say, okay, what is stopping this person from actually experiencing the next GTA the way it should be experienced? And I remember the meme of the beer. They animated the beer bubbles in the GTA. It's like, of course they animated everything. They're crazy about detail. That's not a problem. That's a feature. That's expected.
Well, you could say that they're actually building on what they had before, on that end, on that the metric of graphics. But
right, you expect
and that is one thing to up what was last. The overall thing as the video gamer in that moment, the customer, is okay. We've done 3 decades of high-class video games. We should have nailed down how to have good game design. We should have the genres figured out on how does it play good, really good. And these quintuple A studios should have absolutely no trouble to nailing that, because that is effectively down to a science. Like the way you make properly impactful pixel art animation attack cycles. And because that's figured out, we know how to do that correctly, that it feels impactful. So when we have all of these things down, it can't fail on these elements anymore, because they have to work. You know how this is done. It was done in the past. Do it again. The question is then, how do the new things stand out? And that is all in environment and story. That's all that's left.
Right. So whether the critic is aware of it or not, they are able to easily see something of quality because the expectations are met, even if they're bored, even if they've seen this all, like, GTA 8 comes out, whatever. They know what to expect, but they say, oh, this is just like GTA. It has all the elements, even if they're unaware of them, and there's more of it. It's better, it's more refined, it's faster, it's higher frame rate, whatever. So you're going to get an accurate review with something where it's so big, there's so many things to tackle that they have to give it a high score, as opposed to a double amateur game dev that no one's heard of trying to get into the scene, and their artwork is not very good, or their animation is not very good, or their gameplay is not as tight as it should be compared to the games in the same genre. But that would still be something objectively measurable that you could say, even though it doesn't have this tight control I'm expecting from, I don't know, my delivery racing game or whatever, it is still fun to play, and it should be worth a shot. So those are the kinds of reviewers I like, because they show me games, or they show me things that I've never heard of before, as opposed to, well, I don't need another AAA title reviewer of this or that. I don't care for it. If I will play like a Cyberpunk game, I'll get around to it. It just doesn't bother me. Like the big stuff, like the big restaurants, the big shows, the big games, I'm like, I'll get around to it. I'm in no rush. Whoa.
How was that?
I'm not sure if that was...
I don't know. There are explosions and shots here for months, every day. Every
That
night.
wasn't a soundboard? That was real?
That was real.
That was real. That was real.
You think Whisp can operate a soundboard?
No, I don't have one.
Anyway.
No, like the Discord soundboard. That okay.
My country is not fun anymore.
Wasn't there recently another stabbing in Hamburg today?
Two. There were two
Oh,
today.
two.
I don't know the towns. It was and then there was one where I think an 8-year-old stabbed an 11-year-old.
Oh my
Oh, wow.
god.
Well, I think there's been another one where 11 people have been stabbed.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah.
Jesus.
See, the problem is these things are so
thing.
common now. These things are so common now that they don't even face people anymore. And because we've been so slowly cooked into the everyday, and the state not doing anything because the state is condoning it, and when the state condones it, then well, you kind of feel lost at what to do, because we also don't have a Second Amendment so that we could actually do much ourselves, because it would be illegal to fight back against the bully, and then you get this whole problem. Because hey, there was this one also it's rather standard that they apprehend the guy, it's usually a guy, and he then admits to have done the thing, and then they say, okay, now go home.
Yeah, I found it.
Since you admitted it, there is no, and then they even say there is no what is Tatverdacht? I don't know the English term. That because the investigation is clear now, since we know that you did the thing because you admitted it, we don't need to investigate further. You can go home.
I mean,
Yeah, but why don't you look him up?
All right. Let's get back to the media. Okay.
Hey,
Back to,
Genghis,
I live in a very, very silly movie that makes no sense. The plot is really shit.
Life is wonderful. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. What happened to my cursor? Why is it a circle? Okay.
Gingo joined.
All right.
Where were we?
2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Oh, we lost it? It was at 2:38.
All right.
What? All right.
I pressed the button. It refreshed.
Okay.
There we go.
Because it'll take a mass audience longer to catch on to it and get bored by it because, well, they don't see movies as much as critics do.
I should have killed you when I had the chance. Should have killed you when I had the chance. Should have killed you when I had the chance.
With that said, because critics see movies so much, they might be able to pick up on certain techniques that are impressive to them, but not the usual moviegoer. Birdman was a hit with critics for different reasons than it might be with audiences. The film is set up to look like one continuous shot, which many audiences wouldn't catch on to. A critic might be marveling at all the effort that had to go into making it look like it was one shot with no edits, where an everyday viewer might just notice that things look and flow a little different than usual, even if they don't know why. In both cases, it worked to the film's advantage, as it was so strange and dreamlike that audiences and critics both loved it. In some respects, that's true for The Phantom Menace as well. It's a bad film, especially when compared to its predecessors. But critics liked it when it first came out because they thought the technology and visuals were breathtaking. And at the time, they kinda were. Now we can see the computers are overused, but back then we never saw a film that just surrounded itself in so much of that technology, at least not to this extent. And given all the same things that critics had to see over and over, yeah, this would be a little refreshing.
So that's the argument that things look really good because we've never seen them before, therefore good film? Really?
Neuron activation.
Yeah.
What I said before, yeah.
Pretty dangling keys, exactly.
Honestly, it does look pretty good for 97 still.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
was it 96?
No one's complaining.
Well, 99, Phantom Menace came out.
Oh, 99.
The issue with that, though, was with technology like that, I mean, the 90s have been overused with CGI by that point. I mean, it would have been better with, like, say, Jurassic Park seeing stuff for the first time.
Yeah,
with that sort of technology.
Right.
The first amazing, and like the Abyss as well, though that hasn't really aged well, maybe.
The Abyss doesn't hit anymore on that end.
Yeah.
Because it's standard now.
Said that they couldn't connect with the story or characters. At least, they eventually said that. Many people were so sucked in by the hype that for a long time they convinced themselves that they like it, even though later they come around to admitting that they really don't. Critics can be the same way. Audiences forget that because critics are people, they as well can be emotional, and they can get sucked into the hype train as well.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to listen to those critics. That's kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's like why I don't listen to critics that are quite clearly activists. Well, no, because you're not judging a movie or show or game on its merits. You're judging by, does this thing align with my ideology?
Or,
if yes, high score. If no, low score.
Or make me happy. It made me feel things. I'm like, that's every story should do anyway. But
yeah, my
Great,
first
you are
girlfriend.
a twitching animal. So congratulations.
I'm gonna say, yeah, my first girlfriend made me feel things, but I still rate her 3 out of 10.
Ouch.
So,
I was gonna say, you have those critics that are all like on hype, where they have a particular director they like, and so like every movie they're like, he can do no wrong. It's another
right.
knockout for director.
Wes Anderson. I don't pick one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson. That mean the guy who's made the same movie 852 times.
Oh, he's really good at making that movie, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Ridley Scott became that for me. I had to be like, oh, Ridley, you're not doing too great anymore.
Yeah, everyone loves
another
Scott.
Verhoeven movie that has an intention that he then completely misses, but makes an amazing movie nonetheless.
Well, yeah, it's like James Cameron's going to make another big blockbuster, whatever, right? That's all he does. Christopher Nolan's going to try and do weird shit every time because he tries to push the envelope to do something. Francis Ford Coppola is going to make the same film. Scorsese, same idea. I don't know.
He makes the same film and TV shows over and over.
Yeah, I mean, Quentin Tarantino, I guess all his films are very, very similar, even though if they're different genres.
He manages to make them different enough that they all feel fresh.
Yeah, but
you always know this is Tarantino.
Yeah.
It's the basic taste is there.
So like I rewatched I went to the Revenge of the Sith re-release, and there was just a lot of stuff that I was like, wow, that is George Lucas. And I can't remember any other movie. Like there's all these like scene transitions I just don't see anymore.
It's Flash Gordon.
Like these fade ins and like screen wipes, and it's just like I can't remember the last time I've seen a director like do that. So it's like,
Okay.
The idea that critics are always going to be right doesn't make the most logical sense. But wait a minute, isn't that one of the reasons we have critics? To see past all the emotion and focus on the stuff that's going to be timeless? Yes and no. Movies are all about giving you an emotional experience, and that's going to be different for everybody, especially over time. Films like Forrest Gump, American Beauty, and Saving Private Ryan were seen as heartfelt powerhouses. But nowadays, they might be seen as corny, cliched, and even kind of inappropriate.
No, Private Ryan still is up there.
Touched on something that was relevant at the time. It made a connection with the mass public in a way people's emotions wanted to experience them.
Private Ryan looks great.
This includes critics' mindset at that time period as well. But there are films that everyone can agree just aren't for critics. Movies like Ace Ventura, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Fear and Loathing.
How are they not for critics? What's wrong with shows for kids or movies for kids?
Turtles was amazing.
That
puppet work must blow every critic out of the water.
I think it comes down to critics artistic snobs almost, and films like Ace Ventura are not for artistic snobs.
Yeah,
You should have tickled their neuron activation though, because it was different enough. Sorry, Gore, you were saying?
No, I was gonna say like TMNT I can understand because how many critics were like knew about the TV show, but like kids watching were like, man, it's just like the TV show. This really.
Well, this is what I don't understand. If you're a critic and you criticize or you evaluate things, even things you don't like, you should have a very third-person perspective of, like, let's watch a kid show. Let's watch a Naked Gun movie. Let's watch whatever. Oh, this is a parody. This is a satire. Oh, I get it. Let's go with that. And then, as a critic, you know what those genres are, so you have your little criteria in your head going, all right, this is what's going to happen. This is what should be going on. Great. And then you could say, hey, this was fun for what it's worth. And it's exactly what you should be doing. You should not be going, well, it's not The Godfather, so...
Man, why isn't this kid's movie like Godfather Part 2? This is terrible.
Well,
I think Fear and Loathing is probably the best point here because that was very, like, just a experimental movie.
this is the problem. Well, with any unorthodox film or filmmaking, they're art pieces, or they're cinema pieces, or they're dialogue, or they're slice of life, or there's something avant-garde about them that doesn't quite fit the criteria. So you have to turn parts of your brain off to go, okay, what is this experience supposed to be? And that's when we look at. I always talk about tiramisu because there's only like 2 ways to do tiramisu. I always say, and it's only.
And it's not Dubai style.
That doesn't even register. But if you take all the same elements, all the same ingredients, and you rearrange them in different like shapes, it's like, okay, you made the tiramisu look like a triangle. Why did you do that? My brain doesn't like it. My taste buds are like, this is tiramisu. Shut up. It's delicious. What's your problem? It's like,
And the problem with the activists is that maybe that's a great example. They want every dish to be Dubai style.
oh yeah. What? I don't even know what that means.
Oh yeah.
That's the
Sorry, what
point.
have I missed? I just got back.
Oh, food analogies. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
It's the best analogies. I have awakened to Smud's wisdom.
Using all your senses now. Next is going to be music analogies.
Well, food is kind of like music, isn't it?
Oh God, no. It's not, no.
Let's not confuse us even further.
You got a conductor as the chef.
Oh my God. Anyway,
It's
What
really
is
late.
What is
It's
the
night.
synesthesist gonna say?
anyway, let's keep going.
Clothing and were all panned by critics, but it's pretty obvious they weren't made to be liked by them. Ace Ventura worked on an immature level that spoke to the inner silliness of most kids. Ninja Turtles was great for fans of the cartoon, but it's just too damn ridiculous to grab someone looking to be challenged. And Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, by design, is meant to not be liked and keep you in a raunchy and uncomfortable place. These films hit their specific audiences perfectly, where any other rational human being with little context would see them as insane ravings. If anything, we'd be more concerned if critics did like these movies. But that makes it even stranger / kind of enjoyable when they like something you wouldn't think they would like. Did you know that Beavis and Butthead Do America actually got good reviews? In fact, it came out the same weekend as a drama called Ghosts of Mississippi, with gigantic actors involved. But critics said it was melodramatic and trying too hard to be an Oscar grab, meaning that the movie usually loved by critics was being beaten out by the one usually despised by critics.
That's not. I mean, you can make the argument that when a film comes out, it was seen differently because of another film that came out at the same time, but that lends itself to. I'm trying to think of the bias. Not imposter bias. There's something else, association bias, that because something's in your peripheral, therefore it affects what's outside of it. Something like that. So I wouldn't go that far. This is just, what are we doing as a critic? Well, I have to report on the news because we still have classic critics in film. Like I have this one guy in Toronto who does the classic film set, does with TIFF and all the other things. And he pops up every week because that's his job. He has to review film every week. And he would still watch those films, but he would say, there's not enough people going to the films these days. And now it'd be a little more objective as a result of that. So back in the day when we had 4 amazing films every movie or every month, and then you just wait another month and get another 4 amazing films. That's what it was like in the 80s and 90s. So you could make that argument, but it still does not hold up to any objective critical analysis of the film or the book or the game. So yeah, wouldn't go that far.
Weird to see this dramatic true story about race being beaten out by Beavis and Butthead Do America.
I was taken with their adolescent awkwardness, bravado, and vulnerability. Therefore, a modest recommendation of Beavis and Butthead Do America for me.
I recommend it too. I enjoyed it a lot.
They
That's
both
not the only
liked
one.
it.
Films like There's Something About Mary, The Mask, and even the most obvious commercial with the Lego Movie all got good
So if you put The Mask next to I don't know, the
Godfather.
The Godfather, the color purple, anything like that.
It's up
Yeah,
there.
but the weird thing about that is, you just put the mask next to Ace Ventura. They liked one but not the other.
Yeah.
He's the same guy in it.
Doing the same shtick, yeah.
Yeah, actually, Sisker and Ebert had that moment with the Truman Show, where they were like, "We usually hate Jim Carrey movies, but he did a really good job."
Yeah, that was a
Sometimes
weird one.
I just think with critics, especially movie critics in the 90s, every so often the supply of drugs ran out and they became rational people. And they're like, oh, actually, there's something. I don't like this movie, but I do like this one. I was high as a kite reviewing that one.
Reviews. These are films many would guess critics wouldn't like for being too lowbrow, but something extended beyond the normal boring rubble and connected with their inner immaturity. They were just too charming and, in their own way, too smart to turn down. But even I, as a critic, have to acknowledge that there's a lot of enjoyable films with bad reviews that I just don't understand. Why was Hook hated by critics?
Whoa.
I can understand it having problems and not fully...
I did not know that. Holy crap. I love it.
Yeah, and to this day, that's still quite the anomaly because it's a pretty decent movie.
Steven
Yeah, I love Hook. Hook's amazing.
Fantastic film. As a kid, I watched.
Read the consensus there. That explains to you why they hate it.
Okay.
Spielberg did have that reputation of getting a little sappy, but
Yeah, but this is a kids' movie that is supposed. It's supposed to follow a certain formula, but it did the twist on the formula.
That was a perfect.
And it was all the better for it.
you know what? Hook is how
It was a
you
beautiful
do a live
family movie.
Yeah.
Hook is how you do a live action retelling of some of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Not even retelling. It was a straight up continuation.
It was an excellent casting choice, even with Robin Williams pretty subdued as the role of Peter and Peter Banning.
Hook. Honestly, amazing.
Yeah, it was such a.
I didn't actually see Dustin Hoffman, the actor. I just saw Captain Hook.
Yeah, and
What he was.
how did I forget his name? The guy that plays Smee.
Oh
yeah,
Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
You just saw Smee. You really didn't see him in
You
Who Framed
you saw
Roger
Smee
Rabbit.
so much they brought him back in a completely different version of Peter Pan to play Smee.
It's just like one of those things where the actors are like having such a good time. You can't help but have.
Yeah,
It's like, dude, you don't see Dustin Hoffman playing Hook. You see straight up. You see Hook.
Yeah,
You see Captain Hook.
It's kind of
That's
like
how good it is.
Like when you watch The Princess Bride, there's these movies that just resonate as a kid or as a young adult, and you're like, wow, this is such a magical thing to watch, even though you know it's not exactly Peter Pan, it's not exactly Pirates of Penzance or whatever you want to consider.
Not exactly the 10 Commandments of film.
There's something magical about these films, and Jurassic Park, all these like Back to the Future. There's something special about them, and if the critic cannot see that combination of music and cinematography and joy, adventure, like, these are basic emotions you get or experiences you get from these things. You can't get. I can't get Hook anywhere else. I can come close with like Stardust or other magical like films that have that sort of.
That's kind of the thing. Spielberg, in particular, had a and George Lucas, right? Like you can't get Star Wars.
Yeah.
You can't get OG Star Wars anywhere else. You can't get Spielberg's Jurassic Park anywhere else. And like Jaws 2, you can't. Like there's just this like adventure spirit to them that you can't find.
Indiana Jones, exactly. Yeah. All right.
Jones, you sort of got it 3 times really, the original trilogy, but you can't ever get it back from that original.
Yeah.
One.
Well, you could, but it takes a lot of planning and editing. Okay.
It also requires time travel, so that Harrison Ford isn't 90,000 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
And to be
All
honest,
right.
you can't get the prequels anywhere else either. George Lucas.
No, God, no. Here's the Giga Chat. Thank you for the one, sir. Seeing modern slop that calls itself cinema as well as its corporate ministry of propaganda that calls itself critics makes me remember how actors were viewed as lower than shit in ancient Greece. Maybe they were onto something.
I guess.
Only in the theater.
I don't know. Greece was a different time. 7 minutes. Okay.
Enjoying this movie was slammed. Comedies like UHF seem harmless enough.
Oh
but
my
the
god.
critics
That was so much fun. That was hilarious.
Yeah, well that's what he's bringing up though.
Jeez.
I've never heard of it.
railroaded it like
Wait, you've never heard of UHF?
You have
I've actually never heard of it.
Okay,
you have to watch UHF.
You know who Weird Al Yankovic is, right?
I do know him. I
Okay.
didn't know he did.
Imagine Weird Al Yankovic makes a movie. That's UHF.
Yeah, it is what he did.
It's exactly
Yeah, let me just make my position clear on UHF. It's like I know Weird Al. I haven't seen UHF, but I know the basic idea of it.
Watch it. You have to.
I'm not saying I won't. I'm not saying I won't ever, but it's like I at least know it exists.
If you can,
it has its blunder moment as well, but it's just it's what it should be.
If you can appreciate Hot Shots, Naked Gun, Airplane, this is in the same category. But it's weird. It's literally Weird Al as himself in this crazy movie.
No, I'm just like, no, I absolutely...
It even has a plot. It somehow manages to have a plot.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Weird Al even asked if he ran over all the critics' dogs. He couldn't believe.
Oh, I've seen that clip
They
though.
even
I've
seem
seen that clip of
inconsistent.
him as
Like critics
Rambo.
really enjoyed the first
this
Rush Hour
point.
film, but hated the sequels because they said Chris Tucker was too loud and talked too
What?
much.
Yeah.
Did you see the first film?
Exactly.
And don't get me wrong, I can totally understand not liking these movies, but claiming the
How could you not like these movies?
I'd say let him finish the point on Rush Hour specifically, at least, and then
Hey, I would agree. I would agree on the part that not the way that it was phrased, but the others were too superficial rehashes. The problem is the first one works because it's this new dynamic of two people clashing that are so different, which is a trope in itself. That Rush Hour 1 played to really well, and it didn't overdo anything. The others, they indulged in the wrong ways. They have a couple scenes that work really well, but the overall movies kind of fall flat. I think it was the third one that had a really tough plot at the same time. And the thing is, they don't... The way I remember the third one, the second one I've almost completely forgotten. It was so weak.
Well,
the third one, the problem was that you basically had two movies that were cut together, which is a serious Jackie Chan movie. He does make serious movies, by the way. A serious Jackie Chan movie, and then the Carlson character is just like randomly cut in there, and some of the scenes just don't work, and they're drawn out too long, and it's this cartoon comedy nonsense of Hollywood where why isn't somebody just shooting the guy? Because that's what usually happens with such characters in serious movies.
Is it the problem that a buddy cop movie isn't as interesting when they become buddies, and it's funner seeing them become friends and not when they're actually friends?
Kind of, and that's why that's the element that is lacking, and you need to replace it with something else.
Yeah, it's kind of like the premise works, then you have to work with or beyond the premise, and they just kept repeating themselves. The same with Ghostbusters. Not too many people remember the second film. It was a fine film, but it just rehashed everything that came before. They added the slime element and the walking with the Statue of Liberty. Everything was really fun, but it's not as memorable as the first. So,
which is fair. I think the issue with a lot of sequels and stuff is they try and start from zero again when they need to build on the first movie.
Yeah,
you need to just share Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, like Spider-Man 2 did.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man 2 took everything that the first movie was building on and then just simply just continued from there, and it ended up being a fantastic movie on its own, as well as a fantastic sequel.
Back to the Future Part 2 did that, like, hey, we're not going to the past now, we're going to the future. That's an expansion, I guess.
Yeah, and then going back to that again as part of the consequences of what they do in the future.
Well, the one amazing thing about Back to the Future is that all three movies together are just one long continuous movie.
Yeah.
There's no pause between them. They write second by second, like what they cut together. Think about them what you will, but the cutting together from Rogue One to A New Hope is like the last scene of Rogue One is the first scene of New Hope. That's what Back to the Future movies are.
Yeah, despite the 4-year gaps, like despite 2 and 3 coming way after the first movie, they made those other two with that interconnecting thread in mind, regardless of the time gap.
Well, yeah, just watch the movies back to back. It's like there's no pause.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's just one continuous adventure.
All right. Here is Doug Walker's Secret Gay Lover. Thank you for the one, sir. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but race relations really plummeted when they stopped making Rush Hour movies as well as White Men Can't Jump. Seeing Jackie Chan say the N-word was so funny, it makes me cackle to this day.
Point given. Point given.
See, now I have to go watch all the Rush Hour movies to see Jackie Chan
what
say
was
the
the
N-word.
one with Danny Glover? Was that Lethal Weapon or Police Academy?
I don't remember. Damn.
Lethal Weapon has that. Well, I think it's the second one, which always makes me laugh about when they're talking about South Africa, how it's amazing. But obviously, it's still apartheid, and it's like, yeah, but you're black.
Thread not saying in the chat it was Lethal Weapon.
Oh yeah, what's Police
Academy's another parody or whatever you want to call a joke.
Are you talking about Loaded Weapon with Samuel L. Jackson and Emilio Estevez?
Okay.
Is that what people are talking about?
Wasn't that Lethal Weapon or Loaded Weapon? It's two different movies.
That's National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon. Lethal Weapon, I think, is it Danny Glover and Mel Gibson? Yeah.
Oh, that was Mel Gibson. I thought it was the guy from They Live for some reason in my head. So
what? That wrestler?
No.
Okay.
No. He's a completely other anti-Semitic person.
Oh God.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, but to go back to the video, it's like, yeah, it's like the complaint made by critics back then with the Rush Hour movies, like the first movie kind of did that thing, but as we talked about a moment ago, it's the fact that the dynamic just worked the best in the first movie as opposed to the other two. That's as simply as I can put it.
Doing the first one wasn't? When it so clearly was? This is just confusing. And then there's ones you'd swear they're picking on just because they feel they're supposed to as critics. I know tons of people that watch the Hotel Transylvania movies every Halloween. But because it's an Adam Sandler comedy with immature humor, it's almost like they feel obligated that they have to give it a negative review, even if it's totally fine. A slapstick comedy starring a little kid? Well, gotta hate that on arrival. Oh, it's a Christmas classic now? Well, you were all brainwashed. Rightfully so, nobody controls your opinions but yourself. But if that's the case, why do we even have critics? Do they even have a purpose? Couldn't we just get rid of them all? Not so fast, destructive.
Well, when the profession is compromised by idiots and assholes and activists, that's the same as spin doctors in journalism. They're not there to judge the product, they're there to help sell a product and filter products so that you get what you're supposed to get in order to help mold you into something, to socialize you.
It is funny though, because you say that all publicity is good publicity, and even if you had a 7 out of 10 for a game or a movie, if it's in your wheelhouse that you like, you're like, I'm still going to check it out. Like, why is it so bad? Why is it so not perfect? That's what I want to know. And that could be a genre. I want to play all the side scrollers, or I want to play all the RTSs, or whatever the genre is for my preference. I still,
that's just a case of clearing up the confusion just by getting the first-hand experience.
Oh yeah, like if there's a game I want to buy, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'll pick it up, and then once I'm playing it for an hour, I'll be like, huh, what a weird, wild thing. What do other people think? Now that I have my 1 hour experience, because a game takes at least 10, 20 hours to get a good vibe of whatever. The games that I like, rather, they take a while to play. So I want to see what other people think. And I know my details are going to be way bigger than theirs. Unless this guy writes like a 20-page review and he's like, oh, there's all this stuff. Like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. This game requires that analysis. So that's what I'm looking for. And you don't get that from someone evaluating a 60-hour RPG. It just, either the guy knows what he's talking about or he completely screwed it up. And we saw that with... what was that RPG guy who does 100% full reviews on YouTube?
Oh goddamn! Yeah, I forgot the name. Fuck.
Yeah, well, and that's when we covered Dragon Age. We were like, this guy likes the newest Dragon Age, really? Like, by playing 100%, like something's off with this dude. And he was so good on other games. He was so accurate on Wrath of the Righteous and the other Pathfinder game. This guy, like, he played all the way. To play all through a Pathfinder game takes like 100 hours at least. And he went through it all. So, like, okay, fine. And he loved the new Dragon Age. Like, that can't, something's like, how did that happen?
Something does not compute in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like with this whole thing, it's like with video games, it's the most direct approach you can take. It's like if you hear something about a game, like for example, this is kind of how I got into the Darksiders series, like people calling the very first game just like a shameless ripoff of Zelda and God of War mashed together. I'm just like, is that really what it is? And then I just went ahead and played the first game, and it's like, it is, but at the same time, it's not ashamed of it, and it builds on it.
It's done well. It's a good iteration on the genre.
Yeah. It's
because that's a genre.
Yeah, that's just part of the whole thing. And I was like, it can't be that simple, so I just dove headfirst into it, and it's like, yeah, there's some truth to that, but yeah, it's just iterating on what was already there. It's not just ripping off and that's it. There was more to it. As I just went in, I experienced it for myself, and there you go. I formed my own opinion. That's simple.
The complaint is like, oh, there's a new RTS coming out, and it's an RTS. Oh, well, why is that bad?
Yeah, like why are visual novels bad? Not because people like them, because they're obviously not as popular as real games where you play as a role. But there's nothing wrong with a visual novel. You can enjoy it for what it's worth. And
I mean, well, that's why Telltale took off in the gaming industry as well as they did.
That's an interesting way, because it's like an adventure game with visual novel elements, with some QTE element. Like, it's just like this mix of genres. And that's why people who either don't like one or like the other genre can get into it. With Batman, with Wolf Among Us.
Back to the Future got one at one point.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, speaking of, it's like, and in that specific case, like, Telltale knew how to adapt that format into gaming, and there was that audience for it. They just went for it, and it turned out well, and that it got more attention, and people realized, like, yeah, these games are pretty good.
Yeah, so there's almost like a demand for things that aren't popular, or things that were, I guess, memorable, like the 90s adventure games. The visual novels are popular the world over, just not as popular. So if you combine something that sort of does a little bit of everything, like a buffet, not to say buffets are brilliant, or, you have this one-size-fits-all buffet for Italians, like there's no such thing. But if you give just enough, it's like, oh, this has some gunslinging, this has some detective work, this has some voice acting and dialogue choices. Okay, I'm there. Enough. The quality bar is high enough. I'm not just looking at pixel art. They hired some actors. They hired some writers. They have branching paths. I'm going to play this game twice at least. So there's a quality aspect. Plus, it's not a AAA quality level. It's not $60. It's maybe $30. I'm there. You sold me on the price. You sold me on how much gameplay I get, and hopefully the storytelling with the branching path is worth it. So that's what I'm betting on.
Yeah, the way I see it is like the very topic of the video it very easily applies to video games when it's like just experiencing the thing firsthand, whatever the game is. It's like that gives you that insight into when the critics are or are not wrong. In the specific case of video games, it's like because you get that experience yourself and then you know.
Especially especially with RPGs or anything where you have to play again or replay a second time because there's another path or another story option or another class. You also notice things that you didn't notice the first time, like specific details here and there, things like that. Right, and that's why, as much as I respect like Baldur's Gate 3, I probably will never play it, but I can see the quality and effort and time that reaches out to other people of different genres and say, well, if you like storytelling and you like comedy and you like drama, we got that in spades. But a lot of people don't like the turn-based stuff or the dice roll stuff. So, but that's part of the charm. It's like, okay, that comes along with the ride. You have to go through that. And now genres like that or games like that are becoming more popular, even if they're, 30 years old in terms of technology. Like they're not complicated to put together for combat. So they're easier to make, they're cheaper to make, and you focus on what people want to see, which is the voice acting, the storytelling, the visuals, all the animations, the music. So it's like that. You're getting this cinematic experience in this game thing that is not hard to play. So
yeah,
good for them, I suppose.
I have a point. Critics in many respects are not only supposed to cover an event, they are journalists and films can be events, but they're supposed to offer a point of view that you never considered before.
Fair.
Would you get angry at someone for writing a philosophy on life, even if it's different from yours? It's not just something you're supposed to blindly agree with, but it's something that's supposed to give you a peace of mind. Movies are essentially art, a reflection of life in unique and entertaining ways. A critic is supposed to help you explore it in a way that maybe you haven't before. Someone can watch Animal Farm and like it fine, just seeing it as a story about a bunch of animals that rise up against their human owners. But when you're told the whole story is symbolic of Russian communism and the rise of Stalin, you can suddenly experience it from a completely different level and enjoy it in a whole new way. Critics are also not just one big entity. It's like saying the internet is one person. Hell, if it was, it'd be one emotionally drunk asshole. It's a lot of...
With Macallan 12, that's expensive drunk asshole.
It's a quality asshole.
Quality drunk asshole. I like my blue jeans blue. Yeah, okay.
I'll at least give him. The point does come across pretty well with that analogy, so at least that.
People with opinions, and while many of them do follow certain patterns for the reasons I listed earlier, everybody is different. It's all subjective, so nobody can really be wrong. If you like Ace Ventura, go ahead and like it. If you hate Saving Private Ryan, go ahead and hate it.
There is, however, a very certain level of objectivity in these things at points, though. It's not 100% one or the other.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a balance.
If a critic says this Saving Private Ryan's bad because I don't like the gore, that's a bad critic.
Yeah. I've heard the term objectively wrong or objectively good, or I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that, sir? Or ma'am, where are you going? What's your criteria? What's your bounding? What's your upper limit for good or bad, and why? You have to confine the standards of good and bad. Why are you even using that term in the first place, unless you've gone through the whole process? Are you using a number-based system? Are you basing it off qualities, elements? These are basic questions you ask people. I try to go talk to people who do those tier list stuff. Tier lists are for fun. They're not to do objective values, but you can do objective criteria using them. And people think of you like you can't objectively criticize like all the characters in a story. It's like, sure you can. Why not? What's so hard about that?
I feel like if you make the scale too big, you're hurting the objective. Like if you make it too broad.
Sure, but when you evaluate, let's say, a piece of fruit, like, okay, how much sugar is it? Is it fresh? Is it easy to cut? Is it comparable to things of its same type, like apples to apples, literally? The criteria is exactly what it should be. When I talk about things like a movie or a video game, you already have all the, like, everyone knows the basic elements of like visuals, animations, sound, voice acting, music. Like, you get those three basic categories. So once you have that, then you have to go to the nitty gritty of what is the sound. Okay, it's presented in Dolby 6.3 or whatever, 6.1. Great. That's our standard. How does that work with the other one that's not in Dolby, or it's in Dolby 7 or whatever? So you have these different formats, but it's still sound. Does it sound good? Why does it sound good? How does it sound good? And you go into the details. So yes, it can be done, and it is a little bit of apples to oranges at times, but there's still, what I like to say, there's still sugar in the fruit. You're still comparing fruits, right? So you have to bring it back to what is the denominator of each thing, and throw away all the things that aren't divisible by the denominator, is what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, that just sounds kind of technical, but you can do that, and you can listen to the performances of, let's say, a Jennifer Hale to another version, another actor in a Mass Effect or in a Baldur's Gate or whatever. You can do that and say, oh, they're given more time, they're given more lines, they're given more opportunity to be dramatic or comedic or a jackass or a stuck-up guy or whatever. So you can do all those things, even though they're all different personalities and lines of dialogue and plots. You should be able to. And yes, people will argue, saying, well, you can't do apples to oranges. And that's where you have an argument. You say, why is that? So it's not impossible. It just takes a lot of effort. And most people don't care. So unless you're a super fan or you spend a lot of time thinking about these things, there's really no purpose to go through that entire route. And I find tier lists a lot easier, because all you're saying is, okay, here are my 4 criteria. Does this person exhibit characteristics reminiscent of their role? Are those characteristics represented well? How are they presented with the medium or the media? So is it text? Is it voice acting? Is it 43 facial muscles in a fully rigged Unreal Engine? Is it just a bunch of sprites on the screen? Like, what is it? So there's all these basic elements you could do for characters and characterization, and you can do that on a character list. Not because everyone loves Garrus and he's the dude and he's always saying yes to Shepard. No, there's more to character than just having your buddy with you in a war. That we can do that with any game, any story, any movie. It's not that hard, really. It just takes time.
The important thing is how well you share and communicate. That's what makes you a stronger human being. And that's what a good critic should do. Teach you how to communicate better. Not agree, but convey. There's been plenty of times I disagree with critics, audiences, or both. I sure don't understand why everybody likes the live-action Jungle Book, but I also really enjoyed the movie Ender's Game, despite that being hated by everybody. My thoughts are going to be different from your thoughts, and chances are it's going to happen a lot. But that's good. Share your thoughts. Compare them. Don't let anyone say there's a right way or wrong way to enjoy something, because there is no right way or wrong way. This is one of the reasons film has lasted for so long, because it speaks to everybody differently. It's not science. It's not mathematics.
I do agree with him saying critics should, help you, like, what's the word? Like, are you trying to say better help you explain the quality of something? Like, I used to remember the word for this, but what he's trying to say, like, a bad critic, when judging something good or bad, it's just if that critic's explanation is just, it's bad, I don't like it, that's a bad critic. But if they can thoroughly explain it, like, that's what a critic should, like.
It's through that, It's through that explanation that we see why, and usually the why is a bias. Usually it's because, well, it's not like that, and this is my standard, and because it doesn't meet that standard, here's all the reasons it sucks. Or I have a expectation bias. This is what I wanted. I didn't get it. Why not? And you're like, well, was it supposed to hit those notes? Or are you just being a jerk because you think your opinion is better than the director? So this is the problem we had with sequels or sequels that involve a continuation. So, you can go any route. The writer can go any route they want, but if they just do it for the sake of the committee or the team, as opposed to what's the best story they could come up with, that's where I sit back and say, whoa. Give me one writer to do a trilogy like Lord of the Rings, and that's what you get. You get a very tight story with a very specific plot and a very specific threads going through it. As imagine if Tolkien was written by committee, or Lord of the Rings was written by committee.
That. It's called the Rings of Power.
Well,
yeah,
that's probably true. Yeah.
We already forgot it exists.
So it's so like there's so many things going on, and it's as if one writer has control over one thread and just doesn't know what's going on with the other thread, and no one's critiquing that other writer when it should have been like everyone gets together, you work on your thing, we'll come back another week, what do we got? And then we criticize the shit out of everything because that's what writers do. Writers are extremely critical of each other and themselves, or at least they should be, when they are.
That's the good ones.
Yeah, that's a good writer.
Yeah, I hope. That's how I was taught. And writers end up becoming each other's editors. So that's how that should
be. Because that's the standard.
I hope so. I don't know. I haven't walked into a writer's room professionally to say how that works. So I don't know. And it's usually the easiest thing to walk into because writers are open to ideas and they should be all free and open to interpretation. But maybe directors and producers have different ideas that they say what goes and they don't have the mindset of a writer. I don't know.
It always has been what you allow it to be. So figure out what speaks to you, why it speaks to you, and best of all, how you can share it with others who might have a similar or completely different experience. I'm the nostalgia critic guy, remember, so you don't have to.
And that's the video.
Really?
Bye.
So that 1 minute is just him.
It's like plugging things from back then, yeah.
Is that really it? I can't remember.
It's like that's just whatever.
That's an okay video. It's good. Why was everyone shitting on Duck again?
That's in the memes.
I don't know.
This was
Part of it was just for the memes, so I was like, I don't get it either.
This was before the big.
Before the change the channel thing that happened.
Oh, was he cancelled and by slander?
If he was cancelled, he braved through it.
They definitely. I mean, it was definitely a cancellation attempt from a ton of the former Channel Awesome people.
Yeah, but I can say for certain. But I can say now for certain that he absolutely did beat it back.
Yeah, he beat it back by just being like, "Hey, I'm sorry for this and that. I disagree. I deny this," and then just moved on.
Yeah,
and
short and to the point.
I gotta say, like guys like Cinema Snub stuck with him too, when it would have been really, really easy to throw him under the bus.
Yeah, honestly. Speaking of, there is something of pertaining to that in the memes right after the one Smud's looking at.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, Doug won so hard by just ignoring them all. By ignoring them, that all they could do is never stop making videos about him. And by doing that, he was rewarded with a Smiling Friends cameo. So take notes, people. Also, Lady Emily is a false accuser, so fuck her. Yeah, fuck her.
Yeah, also helps that, like, when YouTube essayists hit the scene, a lot of them analyzed the document. And wow, a lot of it turned out to be provable lies.
As far as I'm aware, the vast majority of it was just either purely lies or just petty shit.
It was either lies or completely subjective personal butthurt about.
Yeah, and here,
from like employee like Linkara complained about just petty stuff, like they didn't give me enough to work with, they didn't give me enough access to the studio.
Yeah, that whole thing.
But then you had people who just lied, like how the thing that like Obscurus Lupa just straight up lied about why she was fired.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna say, yeah, this is the whole thing with Doug and stuff. Like, he survived to boldly flee, which was the third Channel Awesome video. Demo reel, which is what he tried to do after Nostalgia Critic. Making new Nostalgia Critic episodes on new movies with awful skits. When I'm just like, yeah, even he admits that was just meh, but that was mainly because of the copyright crap that was happening. Survives Change the Channel, which we just talked about. The Wall Review, which, yeah, is one of his most infamous reviews. And continues to survive /TV, with the TV board of 4chan, I assume. Modern YouTubers, Oni Plays, and others making fun of him. Man is fucking bulletproof, I'll give him that. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, the Oni Plays thing is the fact that Oni Plays, I don't know if any of you guys remember, but it's like when they made fun of specifically Doug and Linkara. The big difference. Yeah, Linkara just went on and whined about it in one of his videos or streams or whatever, and Doug just took it like a champ.
Doug is like Boris the Bullet Dodger.
Yeah.
Even if you shoot him, he's still survive.
This is a real passion for Doug. Like, Doug's always wanted to do this since he was very young, and I just don't think he comes from a different generation where he just doesn't care about internet drama.
Likes movies, and he likes saying what he thinks about them,
and he does, and his thing, like his content, he does it the way he wants, and if it doesn't turn out all that well, he's man enough to admit it.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Didn't he admit demo reel was a real? He didn't.
I mean, well, just the fact that he went back to doing Nostalgia Critics is enough of that.
Yeah, that's like, you tried. That was a really short thing too.
Yeah. Jerk off to this character, but I jerk off to this character, but for different, more nuanced reasons than yours. What the fuck?
What scares me is that this is a play on a real title.
Oh yeah. Hey, you take my ID. If anything goes wrong, you best in like your LAPD. This won't work. I'm not 6'1". I assume this is the original Rush Hour.
So
that movie was so good. Let's just make that clear.
Does Doug not like live action Disney films?
I mean, a lot of us don't.
He's on the record saying all the live action Disney remakes are bad.
Really?
Well, he's at least on a basic level, he's right.
Like, he really, really hated the Beauty and the Beast live action remake.
Really? I love that.
Yeah, but that one was just so pointless, though.
It may be redundant, but it was perfect.
Yeah, his main point is just that they lose what was taken advantage of in the animated version.
Yeah, they don't have what made the original. They don't have what made the original work.
Well,
simply,
that's like arguing this iteration of this Shakespearean play was better 100 years ago, and that's great, but you still have to evaluate it on its own merit.
And people have, and even just on their own merits, these remakes just suck. Especially since we just got the Lilo and Stitch one, and that one completely misses the mark on the theme of family that was in the original. Like the Ohana thing. It's like the remake just misses the mark entirely on that specifically.
This
is just a double post the other one. Okay.
Wait.
I mean,
Nostalgia Critic fans, Nostalgia Critic haters, agreeing that the Pink Floyd review sucks. I assume that's the Wall review.
He evaluated Pink Floyd.
I think that isn't that the Wall review?
He's a music critic?
Well, no, it's just the fact that he did that one review and people just dogpiled him for no fucking reason.
Oh,
well, I wouldn't say for no reason. It's like there are issues with the Wall review, but come on, guys. It's like he was at least man enough to admit that it was a misstep. Love Mel Gibson and Danny Glover and Lethal.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, champ.
What the hell?
If it opens for me, I gotta say Lethal Weapon, a Richard Donner film. Oh, it's a fucking damn edit. Is that Don Lemon?
Yeah.
Yes, that's Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson. That would be an interesting movie.
I'd pay to see that. I would.
How
Pay
it
to see that.
All right. How it feels to crack your 8th beer while pushing triple digits on the highway during rush hour. Goddamn. Okay. How it feels to catch the extremely niche reference from Bro. Just Bro. Really?
That's great.
David Bowie's father. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't you reinvent yourself as somebody who mows the goddamn lawn? And double post of an earlier one. Next.
Oh. Drunk driving to a great song feels just like this?
Kinda.
That logo.
Kinda.
I really miss that logo.
I miss that beverage.
So that's only in movie theaters now.
Yeah, now. Back then it was everywhere. Oh, come on, Jeremy. The take wasn't that hot.
Oh.
Now I am become drunk the driver of cars. J. Robert Oppenheimer, father of the booze cruise after striking a minivan. Okay.
That was a thing. Okay.
And that's it.
Whew. Alrighty.
At the very least a unique take on the whole thing of critics. It wasn't bad.
No, it was. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a decent one. It's like the correct neutral position.
Yeah.
There's no.
Just have your own opinion. Oh well.
There's
No one's wrong or right, guys.
Yeah, there's no detail
Yeah,
as
you can
to what
you
makes
can have your. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's no detail as to what makes a good critic, as opposed to, well, this critic said this thing when this other film came out. You're like, that's no mention of biases, no mention of today's versus 40 years ago. I would have liked a little bit more nuance.
Or did he not mention bias? This one he mentioned bias, like different kinds.
He touched on it, but not all that.
You
much.
need to name them. You say, what is the bias specifically that people had back then, or within this medium, or this genre?
Yeah,
Give me something.
Fair
He
point.
mentioned people liked Phantom Menace because of the new tech, or something.
That's
at the time it was seen as new and shiny. And
yeah, but that's like one of 7 elements you should have addressed if you want to talk about the prequels. So it's fine.
Like I said,
it's just
George Lucas himself being the director would have been a bias for people at the time. Like,
it was mainly.
I would say George Lucas without the proper editor is what caused the films to be what they are.
Yeah, without someone to keep them in check. Yeah, that's fair.
So there's a lot of details I didn't like. This was a very pedestrian sort of. It wasn't wrong. It's just a very pedestrian style of looking at critics, and because of that, it's easy to digest. But no, I would want a much more robust look at critics from like Siskel and Ebert, what they did and why they worked and why they didn't, and some of their problems because they were not perfect. They had all kinds of really silly takes.
Well, I mean, as shown in the video, they gave a positive review to Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah, that was.
Which that has issues just from being Beavis and Butthead.
Siskel's most infamous one was that he loved Carnosaur. If you remember what that movie was.
It sounds familiar. I don't remember it. Goddamn.
That was Siskel's most infamous. That's funny is Roger Ebert had the acknowledgement of that he really loved The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and he wrote in his review, like, you would never expect me to have liked this movie, but I really, really liked it.
I mean, yeah, everyone has a hot take. That's just normal.
Mummy was great.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's at least fun to riff on.
Well, hopefully everyone is staying warm. It's kind of cool this week. I don't know what happened. We went from plus 20 degrees Celsius last week to around 4. So,
we're approaching. We're approaching the summertime, don't you know?
Yeah.
We had a hail shower today.
What?
Jesus.
It's 48 degrees in the end of May.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the April weather is a month late.
Yeah, but and then there's where I live, where it's where the temperature is either hot or less hot.
Don't dox yourself.
Well, at least that's stable.
It is, especially for a tropical island such as mine. So at least that there's at least
You live
some.
on a tropical island.
Yeah, well, I'm Latino.
Anyway, hopefully everyone is having a warmer evening than the rest of us.
If not tonight, then soon.
Okay. Take it easy. Keep the suggestions coming in the suggestions channel and the voting going as well. Hopefully we'll see you soon, and stay warm, of course. So, good night.
Goodbye.